Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's your Impact Attack. It belongs to you, and we're just holding on to it. And who are we? We are your hosts for this wonderful program. I am Jamie Williams. Some people call me the vet, and with me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon, who I'm tagging in right now. Brandon, what is going on?
Not much, man. Just another day talking about that sweet, sweet impact.
Oh yeah, it's just unbelievable. I feel like so privileged and blessed and other things that people like to say to be able to talk to you about Impact Wrestling. And could think of anybody else I'd rather do it with, and that's probably because no one else would agree. But that's fine. That's fine. This tag team's not going to break up. You're not going to turn around and then I'm going to forearm you in the back. That's like a typical wrestling breakup. We're just gonna keep doing this for the foreseeable future. But that's the V and the B. But we've also got a C. And they are here and they're jumping. So who do we have in the chat waiting for us to start talking about this show?
Let's see. Tonight we got hanging with us MV Hitman, Lisbeth, Labrat, Steve Eggert, Javi Uchida. It's like Chris Windland was in here about 4 o'clock. He might roll back in, but how y'all doing tonight? Whoop, whoop.
Oh, and I see Retro Rocket Review jumping in.
Retro Rocket Review, whoop.
Let's jumping in. So Chris Windland had a question to start us off, and I guess that's as good a place as any to start. He says, my question for tonight is, do you guys see Impact signing any big-ish players in the near future? Who would you like to see, if anyone? So basically a two-part question. Do we see them signing any big-ish players? He says, I assume he adds the ish because they can only get so much or obviously we know. I briefly, we discussed this a tiny bit on the Monday Locker Room today. Ben Hameen and I just brought up the point that, no matter how much money a company has, they never want to spend it. They always, part with their money very begrudgingly, right? So whether it's Anthem or whether it's Sinclair or any of these parent companies that own a wrestling brand, they only want to spend so much. Usually, it seems. So you're only going to get and you're only going to be able to pay, even though you could pay whatever you want. You're only going to be able to pay so much. So they've been able to bring in some impressive names, over the years, even dating back to, TNA and everything like that. They, at one point they even got, even though it was a different parent company then, but they were, TNA had brought in such names as Hulk Hogan, to TNA Wrestling, and then you also had like Kurt Angle was supposed to be a big signing, and they've made their efforts over the years, but ultimately in the fans' eyes and minds, it always feels like other companies just take WWE cast-offs, right? That's like, isn't that like the stigma? It's like, oh, whoever couldn't, and then the fans say things like, oh, they couldn't cut it in the WWE, so they went there, or there's all kinds of like degrading comments, and a perception gets skewed when things like that happen. Like anybody wouldn't sign a talented person that was available. They make it seem like, oh, you only took the WWE's leftovers, like that gets thrown at the company, or the wrestlers get called, like not good enough or less than, even though everybody's kind of basically doing the same stuff out there. So I don't know. Do I see them doing it? I see them trying to do what they can, just like every company does. As for who would I like to see personally, Well, I'll let Brandon answer the first part of the question too. Like, what does he see for that? And what do you think about the idea that did you ever fall into that uh, mindset even temporarily of kind of looking down on them bringing somebody bring somebody aboard that perhaps you were like, oh well, this is just pathetic or something, like that what the fans think. Did you ever think like that at any point in time?
No, it's
No.
just no, they're looking for work, and that's why it's important to have alternative places to work, so you can have a place to work if you end up not working out at the WWE. Because sometimes that place isn't the best fit for everybody, so it's best to have options. I don't understand why it's difficult for people to grasp.
I don't either, but if you ever looked at any supposed wrestling fans comments on the internet or anywhere else, like you'll see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of weird takes on that kind of thing.
I don't, wrestling fans are some of the most entitled, spoiled fan bases I've ever seen. Like
Mhm.
the hardcore fan base.
And they're very. The other thing that's annoying is they're very matter of fact on things that they really don't know about at all. Like they are extremely confident in being wrong, which is a trend I notice not just on the internet, but a lot in society lately, where people. I'm sure this happens to everybody multiple times a day, where someone will come up and just be so confidently wrong. People are so wrong when they tell you something, and I'm not talking about like I don't agree with your opinion. I'm talking about they're telling you a fact and their fact is wrong, and they're so confident in it that it makes you question things you know for a fact. You're like, "Wait a minute. Is it?" Like, and then you look it up later and you're like, "Of course I was right. Why did I?" But they're just so sure, and so wrestling fans they all need a championship belt for being the most confidently wrong about things in terms of their attitude. At least the internet ones. But probably the real world ones too. But yeah, so uh, what do you see what do you see Impact doing as far as, do you think that they're just right now, do you think they're just getting what they can, or do you think they're really getting what they want?
That's kind of a good question. I think it's kind of more of what they can, because obviously because who wouldn't want to pick some of the talent that's in AEW or in WWE, but obviously they're not going to get them because they can't offer what AEW and WWE can offer them.
That's right. Well, one good thing is there's at least been a working relationship between a lot of the companies and Impact. Impact has worked with people they're currently working with New Japan. They've got a relationship with New Japan. And there's another Multiverse of Madness show coming up to speculate on that. Or not speculate, to prove that. And then there's AEW and Impact have done stuff in the past. Kenny Omega being the Impact champion. They didn't really capitalize on the visibility. It didn't help Impact. It didn't seem like it helped them a hell of a lot. Or it didn't seem like AEW was interested in helping them as much as they could, or whatever the case. But
Well,
um,
here's something else that why didn't AEW or not? I'm not AEW. Impact guys show up on Dynamite and jump the Elite.
I mean, it could easily happen, but it won't, because
Well, I meant
same
like
thing.
during that whole thing with when Omega was the Impact champion.
Yeah, it just never, nobody. It was like he took the belt and that was it. It was like, all right, we're gone now. Nobody seemed too interested in getting it back.
Yeah, he's basically saying like he walked in, took their belt, and left until Christian Cage beat him for it, or went over him for it, and then he dropped it to Alexander.
Yeah. So That was weird. That's
I
like,
think
well,
that I think that actually did more damage to the Impact than helped it.
yeah, it could have. You would think that you would want to make a guy, but they still use Christian as a middle, like an interim champion for that. It's like, what did Kenny not want to drop it to Josh? They're all nice Canadian boys. They didn't want to work something out. Is that I, I I don't know. I don't understand that whole thing, but the fact is that they had a working relationship. So if AEW's got guys and they've got too many guys, and they've got so many guys that they really do need a whole Ring of Honor brand. And even when you look at Ring of Honor, they're still bringing people. I'm just that would definitely make Conan's who list. Um, so yeah, they got plenty of talent that they could just, hey, if you need to work some extra dates, go do an Impact taping, and whatever the case. But it's always an option. But signing their own guys, like having Moose for this, this new long-term deal and stuff, like that's it kind of looks like they're going to take guys that are loyal to the company and do things more like that. They're going to re-sign more guys like that. Now, who should they sign? Now, who do we want to see sign? Who is a free agent that's out there that would be a good signing for Impact? I'm not sure.
Ooh, Jey Uso.
Aha, there you go. Should be very easy, right? Jey Uso. Yeah, that would be a good signing. The brother of the husband of of Trinity, but not the actual husband. An interesting signing. Yes, and it would certainly throw a monkey wrench in the plans of the WWE and all their main event stuff. But I think.
Do it just like Brian Pillman did.
Oh, or we could do. Speaking of Brian Pillman, we've got a. They could have had a chance to sign Brian Pillman Jr. He went to the WWE instead. Ooh. Supposedly. Simon Diamond says Simon wants a contract, says Retro Rocket Review. And Simon Diamond, I think, is he still with NWA? He might be over there. But I don't think he'll be in the ring ever again. So I don't know. There's I don't really know who's all available, like who's actually available for them to sign. So the only thing I can say, in terms of like looking at future talent, there's a kid. He's in New Japan now. He's in the Young Lion program still. But anybody's got this guy is going to have a job in professional wrestling anywhere he wants and as long as he wants. You can mark my words now. His name is Oscar Loibe. He's like it looks like he's anywhere between 6'6" and 6'8". It's hard to tell sometimes. Built, coordinated, actually, mechanically great in the ring already. He can sell. His offense looks good. He's gonna be he's kind of like everybody's dream when they see like a huge guy. Like I think Hikuleo's another guy, one of Haku's sons. That's like really tall. That guy's he seems to have a big future, and he's been an Impact with the Bullet Club and stuff like that. But this guy's even better. This kid Oscar's even better. He's German. He speaks at least 2 languages. You know, he may learn Japanese by the time as it's all said and done. I could see him. He's got good fire too, like on his comebacks and everything. So if you watch him, you'll see. But that is a kid who's gonna be. He should be, like I said. It's all up to him. He could decide he doesn't want to wrestle anymore, even though he looks like he's there to be a wrestler. You know, it doesn't look like he's just some guy that was told he should be a wrestler. He seems like he's a fan. He wants to do it. And he can work like he works like a 6 foot guy. Like he moves like a 6 foot guy. He's incredibly fast. I haven't seen a big man like this ever, never. Not nobody, not the Undertaker, not none of these. No, I've never seen a guy this good, this young, that gets it as a wrestler. You know, you've seen all these like 7-footers and stuff, and there's always like a sense of awkwardness or just lumbering, like just general slowness or whatever, and that's fine. But here's somebody that can do it all. So anybody should be looking at this guy right now if they're not. And when they find out about him, I'm sure everybody would have their eyes with dollar signs on them, looking at him. But other than that, I really don't know like who's all available and what, you know, what would be a good fit for Impact. Seems like they just get whoever they can. Have you had anybody that's sort of on the independents that you thought or seen maybe clips of and been like, you know, oh man, this is going to be the next, you know, I could do something with this guy?
Nah,
Nope.
unfortunately.
No, everybody's a bum. All right, got it. Well, we got
Well, to
somebody.
be fair, I haven't been watching that much, so I can't really.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm just kidding. We do have Charles Alfred in the house. Charles the Hammer Evans, one of my good friends from OVW back in my time there, and you know, of course, he was a WWE contracted wrestler and another waste of talent that, you know, he should have been much. Charles should have been much big. You should have seen Charles. He should have been on TV this whole time, but it's just a failing of the company. Like so many other people that there was so many potential. There was a lot of potential that I saw around that time in the sort of like the mid to late 2000s, you know, 05, 06, 07, 08, you know, those years. I saw a lot of people come through that I personally, you know, cross paths with, worked with, and I was like, yes, the future's in good hands, you know, like I'm seeing these guys and like these guys are going to make a lot of money for the WWE one day, and hardly any of those people got any chance. Even the people that briefly, like whether it's Charles getting signed and going to FCW, or you know, Serena Deeb, or any of these people. There's so many other ones that, you know, Andrew Vane was another guy that was a friend of mine and got signed and just completely wasted. He should have been huge. Just so many people that I thought could fill these roles to carry on with the next generation of talent. And there was just a lot of guys that where I would constantly feel like there was the most amount in the business. There was the most amount of, like, you know, it was still all the backstabbing, pettiness, political, cutthroat, like all that stuff was as high and concentrated as it's ever been. And the talent level that we saw was as low as it's ever been. Like, to put it in perspective, it's like if Shawn Michaels is cutting people's throats, at least that's Shawn Michaels, right? When fucking guys like, God, I don't even, who, you wouldn't even know these names if I said them because they were nobodies, but they were still trying to cut people's throats. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're not even good. You're not even good. And you're still, but you've got the bitterness down. You've got you've got the backstabbing down. You've got all the politicking down. You're just the most boring wrestler that no one would ever want to see. And that's why you guys wouldn't know some of these names that are popping into my head, just because Charles would probably know them all. But, it was bad. So all these people, hardly anybody was memorable from that time. The two people that came out of that were like on WWE television at that time that could have done something were MVP and Mr. Kennedy. And those two guys, you saw how they did not nearly reach the potential that they could have based on, their talent.
I remember Kennedy in 2010 TNA when he the way he commanded the crowd and had him in the palm of his hand, like nobody had it at that point.
Nobody. Well, and they didn't have it in 07 when he was getting going in the WWE either. He was a victim of the political, the I'm gonna keep my thumb on you, the oh, you hurt me, like yeah, Randy Orton, he got Randy Orton. So, and MVP was only going to get so far, like they didn't see that. I don't know what they saw that gimmick as, but eventually it kind of got stripped of all the things that made it cool, like a lot of gimmicks did. I know, recently I've been talking about, like I was sort of remembering Alberto Del Rio because I was asked about him and talking about how he came in with all this stuff too. And one by one, they took those things away, like he has his own personal ring announcer. He comes out in a Rolls Royce. He's got a pyro shower. He's got like all this stuff. And one by one, they're just like, yeah, you don't need that, or that, or that. No ring announcer, no car, no pyro. He'd start walking out and they'd be like, man, give me that towel. You don't need a towel around your neck. Give me that towel. You just go out there. Just go out there in your trunks. It's like you take these things that make you who you are and help get you over and, give you a presence. And then, they don't want you to get over to a certain point. The WWE doesn't, the people there. So it's very bizarre, but it's true. And it doesn't make sense to fans. Unless you've seen it firsthand, you wouldn't believe it. You think that that's other wrestlers making excuses or or other fans making excuses for wrestlers, but you've seen it. And MVP was one of those. Remember, MVP had that whole like the inflatable tunnel thing, that he would come out.
Yep.
I used to call it the bounce house, like the MVP bouncy house. And
was it supposed to resemble like the entrance tunnel for the NFL players?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was it. And he gets to come through it, and there's, the smoke and the lights and everything, and it was cool, And at the WrestleMania I was at, I remember watching them. They had the special entrance for him where they had like all these cheerleaders run down and like line both sides of the entrance ramp, with the pom-poms and everything. And so during the day, I was watching them like, practice blocking that out. So I saw they would play the music and then the cheerleaders would run out and then take their places, and then they'd stop the music and then they'd go back up and then they'd play the music again and do it again. Like they'd run through it several times. So it was just kind of funny. They have to time out those entrances and make sure everything goes well. So that's the side that the fans don't usually get to see, but yeah, but eventually, it was just like, I don't know what happened, but neither of those guys, for whatever reasons, and some of which known, some of which not, did not reach their full potential. And so it was a dark time for wrestling. Like that was up until now or a couple years ago, it was like the worst time, in wrestling history as far as like watching the television product and being entertained by it. It was just very bland and boring. But now it's even more like it's a little bit bland and a little bit boring, but now it's also more nonsensical. So it's kind of rough. Impact Attack used to have Colin Wysong, then they took that away too. Hey, Impact Attack didn't take anything away. Okay. Colin's reasons are his own.
It's like Stevie Richards says, he wants you to do good, but not too good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect example of a guy that, had to work so hard just to do barely anything, like compared to what Stevie could have done for them, was willing to do for them, but just didn't see it. So I don't know, man. So it's rough, but I don't know. It's amazing that Impact is still here. They've got 1,000th episode that's coming up on the horizon. I've already seen some things on the sheets that say that Devon Dudley is gonna make an appearance, and reunite with Bully.
Yeah, they actually announced it on this Impact, or it was like a billboard or something. Or some kind of graphic they had already set up for it.
Did they really?
Yep.
I must have missed that. Was that during the part where they say all the stuff that's happening, like right before the main event?
I'm not sure where. I don't remember where in the show it was on, but I do remember seeing a graphic for it on the show.
Huh. All right. Charles says he would like to work with Impact. Easy crowd to educate. Yeah, it seems like it, right? It's like they'll get behind something if it's like if you see the Joe Hendry stuff or things like that. It's like easy to manipulate, easy to because it's because obviously if you're going to a wrestling show and it's Impact, you got to be a wrestling fan, right? You can't just be some.
You're not a casual fan.
You're not taking the kids because they made you. That's not the fan base. Parents might be at a WWE show with their kids and not like, well, my kid wanted to see their favorite, but I don't really care about wrestling. That it probably ain't happening at Impact. It's probably more like the kids are bringing their parents or the parents are bringing their kids like
Trinity might
okay, you're going to learn this.
Trinity might be the exception.
Yeah, could be.
I can see the little girls like wanting to see her.
Can you imagine though, like a little girl following Impact and finding all this stuff out that she's there? Because a lot of times once they're off WTV, they don't exist to fans. Adult fans who could easily find them. So I don't know. Maybe kids are definitely more in tune than they were when we were kids because we didn't have that kind of stuff. But like if I was watching a show as a child and they moved the channel, I didn't know where to find that show anymore. I couldn't just Google it. I couldn't just look it up. I would just assume the show wasn't on that week or it got canceled or whatever, so maybe kids today are different, but yeah. Well, so speaking of shows, let's go ahead and I believe we're all on schedule for a Punching Up Impact. Am I right?
Indeed we are.
All right. So let's go through that part of the show where I try to visualize what you're saying and people accuse me of being asleep.
All right, so this will be going over the 8-3 edition of Impact Wrestling. We started up with a recap catch-up package.
Catch-up.
Intro, Pyro, and Ballyhoo announce table where they go over the card for the night and give their thoughts on recent developments. We get our in-ring with Trinity. It goes like it does on the show with Deanna coming out, followed by the Coven, and it breaking out into a fight, and then Santino coming out. Except when Santino makes a match, because Deanna yells for it, she wants it to be a fight, we make it a street fight. Go to commercial. Then we come back with the match. Come back from commercial. Match is in progress. It's a lot shorter than it was on the show. And it ends when the Coven throws something in Deanna's eyes while she has a chair. She swings and hits Trinity with it. Coven over with wild pinning Trinity.
Is it a deck of cards? Is that what they throw?
No.
Oh.
Now, it would probably something within their gimmick, but not powder, because we've seen that, but something that fits their gimmick. Something blinder.
Okay.
That way it gives a little bit more ambiguity and somewhere to actually go with the whole accidental hit thing, because it's like, did she actually not see it, or is she using that as an excuse?
Okay. Powdered cards, maybe.
Powdered donuts?
Powdered donuts. They do that a little, and then the donut powder gets all, cemetery dust, incense, crossroads dirt, all great suggestions from Liz. We'll go to her for the obvious ammunition for the witches. All right, so whatever it is, continue.
And then we go to the pre-tape with the Rascals and Scotts and Moore. That's the same one that we see on the show, but they do it in a different location where the MSDS sheets are not right in the camera shot.
Okay.
Then you go to a pre-tape with Edwards and Alicia. That's also not in the same hallway with the MSDS sheets, just at a different angle.
Yeah, can you rascals move out of the way, please? We'd also like to shoot a promo here.
And then we go to match 2, Alan Angels versus Heath. And we change the finish with Alan Angels going over Dirty, and then we hype an Eric Young interview after the break. Then we go to our second commercial break, come back, going backstage with Eric Young and Gia, where we get the same interview that we get on the show. Then match number 3, Jake Something versus Davey Vega. Vega's already in the ring. Jake Something music and entrance, and match goes just like it does on the show. Then we go to our backstage segment with Moose, Rush, Bully, and Myers. The replay footage from the previous week, and we get the same segment that we got on the show with hype for the Digital Media Championship for after the break. Going to our third commercial break, come back with the Digital Media Championship. And the match goes just like it did on the show, because I actually like where they're going with it this week.
Okay.
Then we got our flashback of Bailey versus Evans, when we have the same backstage segment that we did with Bailey and Gresham and Gia, because that's actually some pretty decent development with those two. And then we go to a video package of Alexander and the Time Machine promo. It's the same one that we saw on the show, except that they mention a surprise from Moose, Rush, Bully, and Myers for later on that night. And then we have the announcers hype the Eric Young video for after the break. Come back from commercial, and then we have the Eric Young vignette that we saw, except that will actually fill in the plot holes that we discussed last week. Like, we'll actually at least do our best to explain and get those covered.
Okay.
And then we go to a pre-tape with the Death Dolls. That's the same one that we saw on the show. And then we go to a new pre-tape, or a new live feed of the locker room, where Moose, Bully, Rush, and Myers talk about the surprise that was mentioned, and then they'll take it out later in the show. Match number 5, Rascals versus Bailey and Gresham. Shorter version of the match that we got on the show, with Gresham showing more frustration that he did. And then we hype the surprise for after the break. Commercial break 5, New Japan hype video. Go to the announce desk where they hype next week's show. In ring, Moose, Rush, Bully, Myers, and they all come out to Moose's music. Moose starts cutting a promo where he talks about all of their individual accomplishments and how they'll all sink to any low to get what they want. And then he once again wants confirmation from Rush that he's part of the team. Rush confirms he's part of the team and makes sure to emphasize team.
Mm-hmm.
Rush cuts promos on all 3 members of Time Machine, since he's pretty much made it, or the way it's being set up is he's got matches lined up with all 3 of them, because Saban for the rematch, Kushida because he's the number one contender, and of course Leo made it clear he wants to exercise option C. So that's all three of those guys covered. And then Bully cuts a promo on all the sadistic and violent things that he's done. Lights out, lights on. PCO in the ring with a sledgehammer, chases everyone out of the ring. And PCO grabs a mic, makes it clear that anyone who's aligned with Bully is his target. So now we have a new story or new overarching story going into the match at Emergence.
So he'll get on the mic and he'll make it clear, even though it would probably sound something like but somehow we'll know. Will we have subtitles for like just telling us anyone who's aligned with Bully is a target?
I mean, he'd probably call out each of their names and then mention like Bully.
Okay, well,
We'll figure something out.
And by we I mean you, because next week we'll have another Punching Up Impact to punch up this sorry excuse for a show. Let's see. Before we get started, I forgot about Lab Rat's question. He said something. He said, "What do I think of QT winning a title?" I'm against it. All right, moving on. Just wanted to address that. Not a QT fan. I'm not a fan of QT Marshall on television or in the wrestling business or anything else. We could all do with a little less QT Marshall. Okay, so this is Impact from what? I guess August 10th, right? If the previous one was from August 3rd, then this must be from the 10th. It's a little quick math.
That is correct.
So we have a tourney match in the #1 tag team contenders tournament, which is ABC versus Swanahan. So not only is this a good candidate for the hashtag turn off the lights to make a comeback on this episode, but the lights are this one I haven't seen because they're on the audience this time. They've got the entire audience bathed in a red light, like they're all in a Killer Kelly match or something, which was weird. What did you think about that?
Yeah, that was kind of awkward. Like, why?
And you probably would notice it, sitting there.
I mean, I can understand why, like in the last days of WCW, they had the lights the way they did because they didn't want you to see the empty seats.
I mean, yeah.
But like this is weird. Like, this is awkward.
Liz says it was like the Fiend red light matches. Yes, which was terrible. Like nobody wanted to ever be a part of that. And having been in one, I can tell you that I agree. It's not cool. But anyway, they're doing it. So something they're trying out. I must have said something that got them upset because they're turning the lights up to a ridiculous degree, putting it on the audience now. All right. So anyway, in the match, it starts out being a normal tag team match, but eventually, for some reason, the Good Hands interfere. Hodge pulls Swan off, and they're like fighting up the ramp. And then John Skyler ends up taking out Ace, and then Sammy takes advantage. According to the commentators, taking advantage, but even though he didn't know, they're saying he didn't see it, but he's taking advantage, I guess. So a little strange phrasing there, unless I'm mistaken.
The way it was at least done in the ring, like the dude hit something while Sammy was down, and then Sammy gets up and he just sees Ace staggering, so he thinks, okay, hit something.
Right. Yeah, it's just the phrasing of taking advantage implies that, you knew it. So, I'm not really even griping about that. I'm just noting it for the people that didn't watch that it was an odd, it was an odd commentary note, but it was still, the point is they're trying to protect the Bullet Club, but still, I don't know if using the good hands to run in and hit a move on anybody is protecting them at all. If you're touching the good hands, you're not in a good spot. Let's put it that way. So, anyway, and no disrespect to those guys other than just a minimal amount of disrespect. But just, come on. They're working hard, guys, get your money and everything like that. But, yeah. So what'd you think of this opening match? Are you surprised that of these two teams that it was Rich Swann and Sami Callihan that move on?
Not quite. So it looked, I thought they were heading towards Bullet Club and Rascals, but then the Good Hands getting thrown in there is kind of made that look, was confusing. So I would have thought the Rascals would have ran in. Oh wait, no, because
They're not allowed.
Yep. Okay, so what if it ended up being the Rascals paid them off to do it? Or did
it would have to be. It would have to be, right? It's the only thing you could do. But nonetheless, I feel
I guess the Good Hands want the smoke.
yes. Or maybe they can get new suits and hang out with Bobby Lashley too. What if because it's just the idea of, well, Impact will have people go on these runs, and then it's like you only went on this run so that you could be a quality win for everybody else. Like, is that what it is? Like, ABC was defending their tag team championships against the invincible Motor City Machine Guns, and now they're kind of just losing to Callahan and Swann, which don't really have anything going on the show other than the fact that they're just, reigniting their friendship or whatever, but that's not a focal point of anything. I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. We'll have to just see how the tournament plays out, but they really don't, they certainly don't make this feel like, like that the Contenders tournament is that special. And I don't see anything else on this show that's so important that it has to overshadow a tag team tournament. So I feel like they could have put a little more emphasis on that. But it's just so yes. Santino is visited by the witches, dolls, ultras. He even gets in on a huddle. What'd you think of this little backstage here?
Santino stole the show. Like, he completely, like, the part with him, like, walking in the huddle, like, I'm glad they acknowledge that, 'cause what wouldn't somebody that's in the vicinity be like, what the fuck's going on here? And Santino, his character, would immediately step in there and act like he's part of the conversation and give them the answer that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. I would enjoy it. I mean, Santino knows what he's doing. I mean, obviously.
Like, this seems like he pretty much set up and produced this segment himself.
True. I mean, you can certainly not have like a backstage segment where, you don't ask for Santino's input. That would be silly. You got to ask for his input. Even though it's silliness, it's like, well, if I have to sit through this, at least Santino will help make it entertaining for me. So that's how I feel about it anyway. Retro asks, why am I so laid back here and quiet, yet every time I co-host somebody else's Hameen Media show, he is louder and shouting over them? I don't recall shouting over everybody unless, they deserve it. But maybe it's just because I'm defeated. I have to talk about Impact Wrestling. That's enough to suck the soul out of anybody. I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to say?
Like the super
nice question.
It's like the super unknown. First it steals your mind and then it steals your soul.
Pretty much. Well, I like to hold on to my mind a little bit, but yeah, this is a show that like I look forward to doing a show. I look forward to doing this show, like as far as having this conversation, tag teaming, that part of it. But the Impact part gives me nothing to be excited about. Like I'm actually disappointed, that all these people showed up for work and this is what we got. Like from a fan standpoint, I guess, or like an analyst standpoint. I look at these things, I watch these matches, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? It's my job and Brandon's job to make some entertaining content out of what we're given. We're just doing commentary on other people's hard work. So I appreciate that they're all working hard and everything. And I don't know who exactly to assign the blame to for any specific thing. All I can tell you is sometimes working hard isn't enough. It's just not good. So if I have to come on here and talk about it, it's very defeating because it's like, what am I supposed to say? If this was me doing a show with nobody else to bounce off of, this show would be done in 10 minutes. Because I have nothing to say about any of these people's matches hardly. So, that's basically it. That probably has a lot to do with it. Is it the fact that I take a nap right before I do this show and wake up and just do it? Maybe, but that's not always the case in terms of like my energy levels or whatever. I'm also a little bit calmer because I realize I don't have to yell into the mic. The mic's right here. So usually when I end up yelling, it's because I get hot about something or because I'm trying to be entertaining on purpose, because that's the whole idea of what we do. So that's just a little sidebar for Retro Rocket, if that is your real name, which it isn't, and everyone else who might wonder. Charles says Impact will eventually turn around. It's up to the talent. No, it isn't. On both counts, Charles. We've been waiting for how many years for Impact to turn around? And they've had the talent to do it. It's who's telling the talent what to do. That's the problem. But speaking of which, and this ties into what I was just saying, Bhupinder Gujar comes out. He's got his little insert promo in the window, right? And he's got a match against, Dirty Dango with Alpha Bravo. So what did I just say about guys that went on a run and then they're just used to, okay, now they're a quality win for somebody else? So you had Gujar go on a roll there for a while where he was like an up and coming talent. He was beating guys. Then the profile of the guys he was beating was getting a little bit higher and he's getting some good wins and all this other stuff. And it seems like they want to do something with him. And here, even in a loss, like, it's not like you can't lose to, Dango, but is that the guy that you want to put over? Like, you want to put Dango over on like the serious athlete, the guy with size, a look, a winning streak, you know, the high profile matches, not super high profile, but, you know, higher profile than just second match on a random Impact for the comedy character. You know, like this is the wrong booking because, yeah, it's just a short little match and Dango death drop for the win. And it's like, okay, and now we're doing a post match, so get the fuck out of here, Bhupinder Gujar. Did you see that?
Yep.
All right, so now we've got the,
Like double burial.
yep, you got the ABC go on a run, then now the good hands lay their hands on you, and that's like a curse, right? It's all downhill from here. And then you got Gujar, who looked like he had a little something going, and maybe he didn't shake somebody's hand. I mean, what the fuck? You're gonna lose to the comedy character. Again, nothing against Dango. It's all about the presentation and what we're getting. You could have Dango beat somebody else for this spot. It didn't. Gujar had nothing to do with it. It didn't. Him losing doesn't put him on the track to something. It doesn't set up something. You do have to have something for a guy but this is just a job. It's a fucking job right here. It's not a loss. It's a job. And if you don't know the difference, then, you should be able to glean it from the context that I'm giving you.
Or you could have pulled like some random, somebody from the indies and before the match have Dango cut a promo about saying like, look, kid, I'm going to tell you the truth about this business.
Mm-hmm. Right. Something. Anything. But no, it's just like, oh, the lead up to this match was, oh, he's an asshole. So it's like, all right, now we're having a match and now you're just losing. I don't know. I didn't like it. But anyway, the post match, Dango gets on there and says his catchphrase, slightly modified. He says, even when I win, I hate professional wrestling. And then he's interrupted by Jake something, who beats everybody up. So it was really about getting Jake something over. So the local talent that Dango should have gone over on, you could have done the same exact thing with Jake something coming out. So did I forget, did Bravo have anything to do with the finish?
Yes, he got on the apron and did shine the flashlight in Gujar's eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, at least they did that right. All right, so what do you think? Something versus Dango. This is where we were headed.
I'm not seeing it. I'm really not seeing it with that.
Okay. Just confirm. All right. Next we get a Diener and Khan promo with music underneath. And of course it's in red light, but I'm not going to ding them for that because it's always how the design does it. I don't care. But I think Khan said something about he's going to go get Jake something, or no, wait, who was it?
Eric.
Who are they fighting? Eric Young? Yeah.
Well, and at least during his promo, he not Khan's but Diener's, he at least covered the fact that they failed at everything they did, and he tried, and like any delusional cult leader, he puts the blame on everybody but himself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Swinger with Gia, no music underneath. Interrupted by the digital media champion and Sheldon Jeans. Swinger doesn't know what the internet is. I don't have any. I have no commentary on this. So
I thought that's some of the worst writing I've seen when they insulted Alex Shelley by calling him Alex Smelly.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
not. That's like preschool.
That's younger than preschool. Scott Woodford in the house. Be careful with his comments. They've been known to shut down streams due to sexiness. Then we get Lish versus Jody Threat. This was set up last week. You know, they have their match. I'm sure it was very hard to watch. Not that I did. No, what? No, that's not true. I watched it. It was like what I noticed was like was this like a Rouge match? Like they both had like very very like prominently red
Yeah,
cheeks.
they did.
I don't know what's up with that, but they went a little bit crazy with the you know, well, as Marge Simpson's mother would say, ladies pinch, whores use rouge. But yeah, so anyway, they have their match, and then Fat Eddie tries to interfere, or he does interfere, and Frankie comes down and is like, "How dare you interfere?" and attacks Fat Eddie, and then Jody Threat hits her finish and wins, and then Frankie's gonna, he grabs Kenny, not Kenny King, Kenny the kendo stick, and he's going to attack Eddie, and then in the backswing with Kenny, he hits Alicia and knocks her out. And the phoniest shit I've ever seen. First of all, if you could hit somebody hard enough in your backswing to knock them out with a kendo stick, you have to be the strongest man alive. Secondly, who cares? Because this is a promotion that doesn't even really, it doesn't blink at intergender matches. Like they just have matches between men and women all the time. It doesn't, when you do stuff like that, when you treat everybody like they're on equal footing, you cannot do the, oh, you hit a girl spot, especially if she's a wrestler in a match that's just now happening. Like she was just in the match. So it's not like an innocent audience member or whatever, like where you could say, oh, this person isn't even trained to. No, this is Alicia Edwards. To lightly get tapped with a kendo stick, if Frankie's acting like he just, some kid got hit in the street by a car or something, it's like, who fucking cares? I didn't like you anyway. Good. That's what the reaction should have been. Instead, he's doing the, oh my God, I can't believe it, I didn't mean it bullshit. What are we doing here, Brandon? What are we doing?
Who knows where they're trying to go with this? But yeah, that's what struck me. Is I just like, wait a minute, like yeah, that backswing looked, it didn't look like it should have knocked her out. And we've seen, and like you said, we've seen plenty of intergender stuff that should not have been a big deal and sold like it was. I will give them credit though. They at least gave it time to sink in and breathe and sell for a bit before they sent security out.
Yes, that's always good. It's always good when you get security in the right place for your dumb angle. Not your top angle. As Jimmy T's in the house. What's up, Jimmy T? Gotta love Jimmy T. Yeah, as Lab Rat says, socks out. I was definitely, this morning I didn't need to go anywhere, but I was still, well, I was doing laundry, so I could have been folding my socks. Like I have my socks, I let my socks drip dry. I don't put them in the dryer. But anyway, but yeah, so this was stupid, and I don't care. And they're still doing this. They're still dragging this out. It should have been finished. I'm pretty sure that Eddie won the Killer Kowalski's Love on a Pole match from heaven or whatever. There's no reason to continue this, but here we are continuing it. And what are you gonna do now? Like what is accidentally hitting Eddie's wife? What then? Where do you go with it? I don't know. Anyway. So Deanna cuts a promo. She's in the lights. They're violet, if you're interested. Violet lights. And she challenges Kylan King for next week. Pretty straightforward. Just a wrestling promo. Good job by Deanna, I guess. That's fine. We love Deanna. Next is Bailey versus Kushida. All right, so Speedball versus the guy that's out of time. These guys is a pretty good match, I guess. We've seen what they do, and they did it. And Kushida hits the power package for I don't know what else you would call that. He might have a name for it that's based on Back to the Future or something, but it's like it's almost like a power slam that turns into a small package. So that's how he does it, and he wins, and he hugs his big goofy ex. He hugs it tightly. So I guess you could put Speedball in that category of guys that went on a run and then they just used to do a thing here. Now, at least this person is Kushida, and at least he's got a potential title match coming up. But this was just a clean win for Kushida. So I don't know. It was maybe there was something else they could have done, but I guess it's fine. But it is odd. Like, it's more noticeable because of the other stuff that I noticed of how you had guys that were going on these runs, So now Mike Bailey's just another, oh, we need a win, so put him over Mike Bailey. I don't know. Is there a lot of non-handshaking going on around here or what? Don't really get it.
Although with this match, they lost me in a couple of spots. Like, there's a period where Kushida's working over Bailey's leg, like maybe a minute or two, and then immediately he's back on his feet, bouncing off the ring, bouncing around the ring, bouncing off the ropes, flip flying everywhere. Like, okay. And then he goes, and then his arm works the entire match, and then he counters an arm submission into an arm bar, and he uses his arm for other stuff, and it's like, threw all that out the window.
Yeah, Mike Bailey's not good at selling or wrestling logic. He's
He's
very good at kicking guys and hurting, like doing painful looking offense to guys. He's really good at that, and he's a good athlete. But I don't think he really is good at the selling part.
If you put him there with the right guy, I think he is. Like, his stuff with Kenny King I thought his matches with Kenny King were pretty decent.
Right. Yeah. A lot of guys, it seems like, hey, dude, if I had to have matches with guys these days, I would just never work the leg. Because, like, they're not going to sell it, so why should I work it? It'll look like I'm weak. So I would always pick a different. I would probably attack the stomach or the back or something like that. Because you're not going to need that. If you attack a limb, like you said, they're just going to end up using it and undoing all the work that you did. If they're not creative enough to just find a way around the match where they can, lose a limb and still continue the match and sell it properly. So to avoid that, I just hit the torso because, you're not gonna. You still have to do all of your moves with a torso, regardless of if it's hurt or not. So it doesn't matter if you sell it. It's not gonna limit your mobility, even though it could. Like, you could sell a back injury, like you can't get up, but they're not gonna do that. So, just one of those detailed things. But Mike Bailey doesn't really get it in terms of that. So for all the other good things, good qualities that he has, that part of it, he's still learning it. So
he'll get it one of these days, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully before he gets in the hospital. So, Buckshot Kid says, "Vet, just attack yourself. Teach people how to sell." I don't know. I'm selling this whole show. It's basically what it is. So, yeah. Next is, oh, this was weird. So Tom sits down with uncrazy Steve. I mean, he looks like Crazy Steve and he sounds like Crazy Steve, but is he Crazy Steve? I don't know. He seems normal. He also feels abandoned. He's legally blind. Um, and we're gonna pick this up at a later date, apparently. So, um, there you go. What'd you think of this sort of like a more candid Steve, not so much Crazy Steve?
I don't know. It seemed like they might be trying to go for the vibe they're trying to be capturing is back. Remember when they did the Mick Foley sit down interviews? They were kind of a shoot that basically Foley took his own personal history and injected it into the Mankind character.
Yeah. Well, this ain't that.
No, absolutely not.
This sure as shit ain't that.
I'm just trying to say maybe what their thought processes or what they're going for.
I think their thought process is we did this with Frankie recently. We should just do it again with another guy that we don't know what to do with. Like, what, it. I don't know. I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know what they're thinking. But this whole like trying to engender sympathy from the audience to make a baby face kind of thing, I really don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want to personally. Now maybe I'm just not the target audience. I'm not. But even if I wasn't, if I was just a normal civilian, if I saw something like, oh, this guy's weak, I like him. Like I'm not saying that people aren't weak, but I don't want to turn on my entertainment to be shown somebody that's weak. And I think that other people are doing that as a way to be like, to gain fans. Like, oh, if I have these disabilities, I'm an inspiration to somebody that's blind or whatever. I think that's fine to do in a certain aspect, if you can let people know that about you, or those type of things about you, but it should be separate from the TV show, the TV character. I don't really like, I just don't really like selling yourself as, like a charity case, because most people, that's only going to get you short-term sympathy, and then what? So you tell me that you're legally blind, and then what? You're gonna have a wrestling match? So now everybody should be able to easily beat you, in my mind. Like, what if you tell me that? If you tell me you're handicapped, and then if your job is to have a fight, a pro fight, and you beat anybody, you immediately lower that person's stock, in my mind. You completely throw out the suspension of disbelief and all this other stuff. So highlighting your handicaps in a professional wrestling business, I don't think is the most effective way to go about it. If you want to go on your Busted Open Radios or any other kayfabe breaking podcasts or any of the Hameen Media Group podcasts, and you want to tell your story and talk about shit like that, that's one thing. But you got to separate this church and state here, in my opinion. What do you think about this?
It really depends if it's on the right talent. And the character and the gimmick for Crazy Steve, not really the right guy. But like you said, with the whole blind thing, if you're legally blind, how are you winning matches? Everybody should be able to beat you easily if you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless you're like Matt Murdock or something like that.
Yeah, which you're not. And it's not like Crazy Steve has been like, it's not like he's been on one of these runs we're talking about. Not really at any point. He was always just that, kind of side character, I feel like. But still, you know, you're anytime you put somebody out there for competition, or what does that look like that a company like Impact is like, oh, this guy's blind. Well, put him in a match. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? So yeah, this doesn't work for me, brother. But this is just how things are now. Like, people like to talk about their disabilities on on camera as part of the show, not in like personal interviews or other things. My feeling is this, because I'm going to come off sounding like an asshole like I normally do. But what my point is in terms of when you're watching a show, whatever your favorite television show is, what's a popular television show right now? I don't even know. I don't watch TV. But take any of those shows that's on TV right now. And if one of your characters on the show starts working in a gimmick that the real actor has that doesn't fit the character they play on the show, then you would be like, well, just because so-and-so is this doesn't mean, you know, that this character is this.
Right, like just because Nick, Nick Offerman happens to be a fan of woodworking, loves woodworking, fit the Ron Swanson character perfectly.
Right. He's really a fan of woodworking?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, see, that's fine. Because, yes, Ron Swanson would do that. But if it was Tom from Parks and Rec, then maybe he wouldn't be a woodworker, I don't think. Even if, you know, God, what's his name?
Unless it was like done in a story or an angle where he's embarrassed to have that hobby and doesn't want to show anybody, and they do a thing where he ends up getting outed.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. But basically, all I'm saying is, if people become a fan of you for the character you play or whatever, and they try to learn more about you, and they find out about your shoot life, and they find out that you have disabilities, then they will respect you more. But just going on TV and cutting promos about your disabilities, I don't think does anybody any favors. And it's just something that we see a lot now. But I don't want to make it seem like I'm insensitive to people's, you know, like their real lives, their personal issues, the things that they struggle with. I'm very proud of all these people. I'm proud of Steve for everything he's accomplished in spite of his handicap or anything like that. I'm not, you know, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's just a matter of good content, and the business that we're trying to conduct here. So on that note, we get footage from some promotion called Attack Pro Wrestling. I feel like that's my business. Yeah. Of Subculture defeating some guys. I didn't quite catch the name. I couldn't rewind. I couldn't be bothered to rewind it to listen to what their name was. I just moved on. And then they do their Subculture does their promo in black and white with music underneath. So there you go, Subculture.
I'll give you Subculture this: their production values for their promos, top notch.
They're not even in color. We've had color on television since the 50s. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Still not over with me. So someone says his name and Joe Hendry appears. Again, another very shoehorned in way to do it, but whatever. And this lady clearly went tanning with full goggles on, like full swim goggles instead of just like the little covers. But yeah, so he appears, and then someone says someone else's name again, and Yuya appears, and then Yuya says, you know, he only says champion for everything, for every answer, and then he says champions, and that gets Joe Hendry thinking that maybe maybe tag team champions. There's a tournament going on to determine number one contenders. Are these guys part of it?
I do not believe so. No.
Oh, so they'll just skip the line whenever
Yep.
they feel like, it's got to be the best. Says Subculture. Retro says Subculture has a chick that looks like she is from NXT. Well, yeah, Danny Luna was in NXT UK, I'm pretty sure. So there you go. Yeah, so, more Hendry and Yuya. I guess this is fine for both of them right now, but yeah. Meh.
It's kind of similar to like
said?
the last angle they did with Hendry when he was in Impact, where it's kind of like you're kind of expecting him to turn on the partner, turn on the friend, and he doesn't, and ends up actually going the other way.
Yeah, we don't need a Joe Hendry turn right now. We just need something good for him to do. Okay.
Well, in that angle, in the last angle they teased him turning heel and abandoning his friend for the girl or for his friend's girlfriend, but then it turned out that he ended up ditching her to stay with his friend. Like, wait a minute, you manipulated him to get to me. You're a horrible person. I'm staying with my buddy.
Yeah. Even though I will say that in the introductory vignettes for this most recent run, there was definitely some intimations made that were not necessarily babyface-ish with some of the no-name NPCs that were in these vignettes, if you guys remember how this all started. And Brandon's laughing because he doesn't remember. But, yeah. He definitely wasn't...
Who's the father? Say his name.
Right. Yeah, so he's not above it. But, he seems to be all right now.
Although I think what those videos are supposed to imply is that, like, if you're in a bad situation or a bad time, you just gotta say his name and he'll show up and make you feel better, no matter how bad it is.
I think so, but it didn't quite.
But who knows? But yeah,
it didn't quite come off that way at first.
Definitely open-ended enough to where if they wanted to go back to that, they can.
Sure. So, the main event is Moose, Myers, and Bully versus Taurus, Laredo, and Samurai del Sol, which I think is Kalisto, but anyway. Or is it? Because apparently Leo laid him out backstage, and he's not going to be able to compete. So, in a non-typical wrestling fashion, they're like, fuck it, it's a handicap match. No, like, surprise mystery help partner or anything like that. It's just, nah, fuck you guys. I guess that's what, that's the treatment that you get when you're, from another wrestling company from another country. Just.
And screw any of the fans who paid to see him wrestling that night.
Yeah. You guys will have to wait till later in the taping to see him. And then I was thinking, what, was he gonna do like the Valiant run down the ramp and come in for a hot tag spot? I was wondering if that was gonna happen. Spoiler alert, it didn't. It was just, And then throughout the match, they had, they took the good guys of the emergence match that's coming up and just had them like in an insert promo, or like the little promo window that they would put for the insert promos, and they just show the four guys just standing there like watching the monitor. Let me tell you something, guys.
Of course, Bushido's still wearing the X around his neck.
Of course, he's wearing the X necklace. This, if you want me to believe that this is real, which you clearly don't, especially by the end of this match or any of the other stuff that's gone on this show, or like the Kenny knockout or any of the other stuff. I know you're not down for realism, but just so everybody knows that's watching at home, if you had four wrestlers watching a monitor They are not just going to be standing up in the middle of an empty room. They are going to pull up a chair. So you could have at least got the guys some chairs to sit down on, right? Like, come on. Make it real, guys. Ain't nobody standing up watching that shit. Kidding me? What do you think that whole gimmick about it, you didn't give up your chair is even about? People like to sit down in chairs. Wrestling veterans like to sit in chairs. It's their favorite thing. So, especially if, a rookie's already sitting in it. That's when they want to sit in a chair the most. So anyway, yeah, so the match is going on. Then the lights go out. Then lightning strikes. And PCO appears in the ring. He cleans house. And Laredo tries to take advantage of this, which he did see it happen, unlike Sami Callihan from earlier. He almost wins, but they do a spot where Myers kicks out of whatever he does, and then they like bounce back and forth. They ping pong him back and forth between him and Moose, and then he hits Myers hits the roster cut and beats poor Laredo Kid again. And then Bully runs down the stairs because PCO has chased him out of there, and he carjacks a guy outside.
Crime on tape.
Yep, we got another filmed crime.
And it's somebody who would actually press charges.
Yeah, this is just some guy who just happened to stop at the wrong place, the wrong time. Bully jacks him.
Chicago, dude. You should be more careful than that.
That's right. Well, Bully should be more careful. Like, that guy could have shot him. But anyway, yeah, you don't just reach into a guy's car in Chicago. You kidding me? So, well, this is not really Chicago. This is like down the street from Chicago, but this is in Cicero. It's just like they just want to call themselves Chicago, but still probably dangerous. There's not that much real estate to make it less dangerous. So I wouldn't advise it on either side. But anyway, filmed crime. And then PCO screams after him in the street as he drives off in his new car.
Cruising down the street in my 6'4".
All right, well, fuck. What? I'm not saying nothing.
There's nothing. There's nothing to say.
Can't wait for Punching Up Impact. Yeah, this is the worst. I've got no recommendations for anybody to go back and watch any of this. Sorry.
Maybe anything with Santino. That's about it.
Yeah, that's like a 15-second clip that you can find. 15 seconds worth it. Society Reviews is here. Welcome, Society Reviews. We're wrapping up. Is Eddie Edwards still fat? Yes.
When is he not fat?
He's never not going to be fat. If you combine him and his wife, you might get a normal sized person.
Fusion? Ha!
Yeah, and he also says CM Punk coming to MLW, last bridge to burn. Nah, he ain't coming to MLW. CM Punk's my favorite wrestler. You know why? Because I get to hear Cult of Personality at least once a week. So he's over with me. And all his enemies are the worst things to ever happen to pro wrestling. So he's over with me. And he's also a dick. So he's over with me. Ends up going to New Japan, is he? It's a good fit. They love promos over there in English. Yeah, as Buckshot Kid says, it's time for plugs.
Hair plugs?
I know.
Hair plugs.
You know, why didn't people like The Cable Guy when it came out? It was clearly one of the best movies ever.
Jim Carrey knocked it out of the park with his acting.
Yes, he did. Um, Matthew Broderick was terrible as always, but they found a way to make it use like they used it in that movie to their advantage. Did I talk about Asuka burying Joshi? No, I didn't. Uh, well, what she's saying is, I mean, some of this is not common knowledge, but it's kind of the same way. What she's talking about is the same a version of things that go on here, like in terms of you know, women are marketed with sex appeal, and if you're not into that, you don't get as good a push as everybody else does. So that's not a uniquely Japanese thing. That's a entertainment business thing. So uh, there you go. But whatever Asuka says, she's right. She would know. I stand with Asuka. CM Punk and Asuka are my favorite wrestlers. Society doesn't like the Cable Guy. So you're one of those motherfuckers from back in '95, huh? Oh yeah, good movie. Well, it definitely has aged well because, um, you know, maybe back then people were enjoying comedies too much, and they were spoiled, and they didn't know how good they had it, and then try to find something funny like that now. I don't know. Um, but yeah, ahead of its time. And we're ahead of our time here. We're coming in under the um, hour and a half mark. So we'll hit our plugs and get out. Um, so before we ask Brandon for his plugs, one last thing. Retro says, "Tell us again about meeting Mickey James, about the good old days." It was nice. She crossed the room to shake my hand. She said she introduced herself with a sultry, uh, look on her face, and I was like, better not do anything untoward here. It's my first day. So anyway, Brandon, where can the people find you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at TransArchisTia, or X now, as the kids call it. I am also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist, and as well as Substack at HMG Brandon.
That's right. Where you're gonna have some work to do to come
Fix
up with a
this
new
mess.
ending for this fucking bullshit. As for me, you can find me every in addition to every Monday night here at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. You can also find me every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, like clockwork, for the Next Level Wrestling Review, where I will also be disappointed by wrestling. But it's just a different kind. This is the difference between shitty shows or movies on the independent film channel versus shitty shows or movies on the Disney Channel. That's basically the two differences that we definitely got an IFC classic last week to end the show with, Eric Young's meditations on what Butch's post gun shop chopper ride must have been like from Pulp Fiction. But um, you know, NXT sucks just as bad in a different childish cartoon way. And those are the concrete places that you could find me. Speaking of concrete, every Friday at noon Eastern, you can find Wrestling with Rip Rogers with a live Q&A, unless they're not there, or they're at a different time, or they're just not doing the show at all. If it's not for that, it's a concrete time, baby. So check them out. I may not be always on the show, but I seem to always be mentioned on the show. So if you like hearing people mention me, I'm sure they'll do it once or twice. And of course, Stevie Richards' wrestling analysis channel, blowing up still. Let's check the view count. Let's check the view count live. We're doing this live, people, as of this recording. It is now 24.7 thousand. So that's up another 2,000 from last week when we checked it live. So he just put up a video. What does it feel like to get speared by Goldberg? Spoiler alert. I think it hurts. But I never was tackled by Goldberg, but I did get speared by former XFL player Rich Young, who you may know as Ricky Ortiz or Atlas Ortiz or any of those other names that he went by that wasn't his name of Rich Young. And yeah, didn't feel great. But I don't think there is a way to feel great taking a spear. Not if it's going to look good. So, but you can see Stevie talk all about that. And of course, his Patreon has completely different content, including an analysis of the finish of the Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory match from SmackDown this past Friday, which is interesting. So check out Stevie Richards and everything else he's doing. And yeah, I think that pretty much cover it. So at Opinion Haver for all your favorite, on all your favorite social media channels, you can find me there. So that being said, we'll wrap it up here. For Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.